All praise, all glory, all honors, most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the House of the Faith. I usually come before you on Wednesdays and Friday, but I had to come today because I was unable to come yesterday. Bring you this message, and the title is Israel, your wisdom is in keeping God's law. Again, Israel, your wisdom is in keeping God's law. Okay, so we're going to find out what was given to Israel as a people and what that actually was, and how it benefited Israel, and how Israel got away from it, and the consequences for doing so. Again, what was given to them was the laws, statutes, the commandments of God. And brothers and sisters, if you want wisdom and understanding, you go to God. And God manifested this understanding to a particular people. Okay, let's go to Psalms. And when I say a particular people, I'm talking about Israel. And Israel, if you didn't know, even if you're mad about it, I'm here to tell you that Israel is a black people that have been scattered into slavery all over the world. So this is Psalms 147, verse 19. Concerning God. Well, verse 1, it says, praise ye the Lord, for it is good to sing praises unto our God, for it is pleasant and praise is comely. Now, let's see some, it talks about the many things that he's done. Let's see one thing that he did. He said, he sendeth out his, it said, he showeth his word unto Jacob, in verse 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. So you read another place in Amos, it says, only give unknown about the nations of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity. He didn't come to another people. Okay. And he chose Israel to be a kingdom, a nation of priests, a holy nation. So it says, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not so dealt with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. He only came to the children of Israel. Let's go to Romans 3. And see something that even in the New Testament is telling us. Paul, this is Paul, who was the apostle to the Gentiles, okay, the other nations. Let's see what Paul the apostle said concerning what was given to Israel. So this is Romans, the epistle to the Romans of the apostle Paul, chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, what advantage then hath the Jew? Or what profit is there of circumcision? I'm in Romans 3 and 1. It says, so it says, what advantage then hath the Jew, or what profit is there of circumcision? I mean, what's the advantage of being an Israelite? Ultimately, he says, much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. So the oracles of God were committed to them, not the Europeans, not the Asians, okay, not African nations. It wasn't given to these other people. It wasn't given to these other people. Let's go to Deuteronomy 4. Deuteronomy 4, because Moses enlightens us about this. This is Deuteronomy 4. And here Moses writes, after telling the children of Israel, hey, don't add or don't take away from the law of God that was given unto them. It says, behold, in verse 5, this is Deuteronomy 4 and 5. It says, behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord had my God commanded me. Okay, so there's no such thing as a Mosaic law. The law was given to Israel by way of Moses, but it's God's law. Moses doesn't have a law. He was a conduit, if you will, that it was delivered unto the children of Israel. So it says, Lord, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me, right? That ye should do so in the land where ye go to possess it. So when you go into this land, keep God's law. It says, keep therefore. He tells you why. He said, keep therefore and do them. For this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. Right? So this is wisdom. This is understanding. What is your own belief system? No, the law, statutes, the commandments of God, the instruction of God. It says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. But what made them wise and understanding? It's the law of God, because the law of God shows you how you should operate in all facets of life. And that is wisdom, brothers and sisters. There's no wisdom. You can't find such wisdom amongst the Greek philosophers. You can't find such wisdom within the mystery schools of Kemet. You find the wisdom of the Most High Yah. You find that where? So it says, for what nation is there so great, who have God so nigh to them, as the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? So you understand. It's also, that's how you are holy. That's how you are sanctified, set apart. This is how you are righteous, not based on your own tradition, which is what most of our people are doing in the world, for that matter. They are basing righteousness and morality upon what they say. And what are they? But dust. I'm talking about man, but dust. How can you determine righteousness? Because I'm talking about, for the most part, particularly in American society, you see that righteousness is based on whatever you feel like at that time. There's a moral relativism there. But let's go to Leviticus, the 10th chapter. Because we'll find out how this knowledge and this from this law was supposed to be dispersed among the people. This is Leviticus, the 10th chapter, and we're going to read something that was told unto Aaron, who was the high priest of the tribe of Levi. That's the priestly tribe. So it says in verse 8, and the Lord spake unto Aaron, saying, now he talked about not drinking wine or strong drink, and him and his sons when they going into the tabernacle of the congregation, because he tells them it's important why they shouldn't do that. It says, and that ye may put difference between holy and unholy. So you have to be sober-minded to do that. Then it says in verse 11, and that ye may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord hath spoken unto them by the hand of Moses. See, but what was that they were taught? That was the wisdom of God from his law, right? That's what we read in Deuteronomy 4. Let's go to Malachi 2 and pick up something here. Malachi 2, this is right before Matthew, the last book in the Old Testament. Malachi 2. Malachi 2 and verse 7. Because here the prophet tells you what the priest is supposed to teach you. Now, we just read, he said, teach the law, right? Let's see what he says here in Malachi 2 and verse 7. Well, let's pick it up, actually. Well, because we're going to come back here later. Let's just pick it up at verse 6. Well, verse 7. It says, for the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. That's your wisdom. That's your understanding in the sight of the nations. So he had it set up. You had a system where you had the priest that they would do what? Teach the people. Right? Even when you look at the New Testament, you see the structure of the congregations, right? They had bishops, they had /elders, they had teachers, they had pastors, they had even deacons, all the way down. What? So the word of God could be what? Taught. The gospel can be what? Spread amongst the people, so that they can hear the word of God, their conscience be pricked, and they walk in righteousness, and that is wisdom. So it says in verse 7, for the priest's lips should keep knowledge. Let me read verse 6. It said, the law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity is not found in his lips. Right? The law of truth, his word is true. His commandments are the truth, the Bible tells you. It says, he walked with me in peace and equity and did turn many away from iniquity. That's the job of the man of God, to turn you from your sin. By doing what? By teaching you what thus saith the Lord. You find what thus saith the Lord in the law. Not what he says of his own mind, but what thus saith the Lord. Like, it's not a coincidence that I always read to you. Because what I think really is not important. It's about what thus saith the Lord. That's what's important. That's what trumps all. Let's go to Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy 17, because we see how he had the priest operating within his law. That's how they were supposed to function. Let's see even what the king was supposed to do, because you had two major offices within Israel. Okay, the structure of rulership. You had the priesthood and you had the kingship. Let's go to Deuteronomy 17. And we know initially that God was the king of Israel. We read that in Samuel, right? When the people requested the king. Okay, but this is Deuteronomy 17, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14, because here Moses prophesies of that time I just spoke of when Israel would desire a king like other nations. So Deuteronomy 17 and verse 14 reads, when thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shall possess it, and shall dwell therein, and shall say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me. But you were supposed to be different from the other nations. Why would you want an earthly king when God is your king? Why are you looking at everybody else? That's our problem as a people. I'm talking about Israel, even until this day. We worried about what somebody else is doing. We want to be like other people. Forget what other people are doing. God gave something specifically for you that trumps all of what other people talk about, all their belief systems. It trumps their culture. It trumps everything. We need to come back into that. We are in desperate need of a reformation. I'm going to go down a little bit in verse 18. Deuteronomy 17 and verse 18 reads, and it shall be when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom. Let's find out what he was supposed to do. That he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. So he was supposed to write down the book of the law. And it says he shall be with him and he shall read therein all the days of his life. You copy that book of the law down and you read it all the days of your life. Why? That he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, that his heart not be lifted up above his brethren, that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end of it, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel, because it was passed down from son to son to son, right? So let's see one of the sons of the greatest king, David. Let's see his son Solomon and see something about him. Let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings. 1 Kings, the 3rd chapter. We're going to read something about Solomon. 1 Kings 3 and verse Solomon. We'll find out what he asked for, what he was known for. 1 Kings 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 10. It says in 1 Kings 3 and 10, it says, and the speech pleased the Lord. Oh, excuse me. Forgive me. Let's start at verse 7. 1 Kings 3 and 7, it says, and now, O Lord my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a little child. I know not how to go in or go out or come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people, which thou hast chosen, a great people, that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people. So he wanted what from God? Understanding, that I may discern between good and bad, right? So I will know what's righteous and unrighteous. For who is able to judge this so that greater people? Okay, and that pleased the Lord. Now let's skip down a little bit. Let's go to verse 15, because the Lord has shown him that he said, hey, not only am I going to give you that, but I'm going to give you great wealth as well. He said in verse, because you didn't ask for wealth, you asked for wisdom. He says, verse 12, he said, but this is God's response. He said, behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. Notice he gave it to him. Okay, then it says in verse 14, and if thou wilt walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did, then I will lengthen thy days. Okay, So it says, Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream, and he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered up burnt offerings and offered peace offerings, and made a feast to all his servants. Now let's read some more about this great king. This is 1 Kings 4, and we're going to pick it up at verse 29. It says, and God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding, exceeding much and largest of heart, even as the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country and all the wisdom of Egypt. See, again, it trumps everything else. The wisdom of God trumps, like I said, all this philosophy. What's Greek philosophy? It is nothing compared to the knowledge of God. It says in verse 34, and there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom. The Queen of Sheba came to hear of his wisdom. But let's see something here. Because where does, if you want wisdom, you should do what Solomon did. Let's go to James. You want knowledge, you want understanding? You have to go to the source of it all. See, he's given, the Lord is merciful and worthy to be praised. He is giving you access to it. When Adam and Eve, when they were dealing with God, they were dealing directly with the source of life, the source of knowledge. We know through the Bible. Hold on one second. We know that through the Bible. This is we in James 1. We know that through the Bible that it says that God created the earth and foundations of it through his wisdom, right? Through his knowledge. But this is James 1. And we're gonna pick it up at verse 5. See, who should you go to if you want knowledge? Didn't Solomon show us an example? James 1 and 5. James says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. He gives it. He gives it. It comes from him. True knowledge, true understanding comes from God. Okay? That's where it comes from. Let's go back to 1 Kings. Let's go to 1 Kings 10. 1 Kings 10. And we're going to pick it up at verse 23. 1 Kings 10 at verse 23. Because it says, so King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom, and the earth sought to Solomon to hear his wisdom. Listen to this, which God had put in his heart. Okay, so it came from God. Let's go to Proverbs and see what this wise king wrote, because he had the wisdom of God. See, God is manifesting himself unto his people. Now, so why are we following other people? That's backwards. This is Proverbs 1 and 1. It says, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their sayings. This is the purpose for which he wrote the Proverbs. He tells you right there, this is why he wrote them. And then he says something. He starts out with the foundation of knowledge. Verse 7, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. That's the beginning. Once you understand that God is to be feared, that he is to be reverenced, that there is an entity, a being, rather, by which you have to bring yourself into subjection to, that is the foundation of knowledge. Because that, brothers and sisters, will direct your paths. That will direct your actions. And that means you will do what he said to do. And what he said to do is for your best benefit and ultimately will lead to everlasting life. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. See, fools despise the law of God. You got many preachers out here today saying you don't have to keep the law of God, that you don't have to keep his commandments. That's foolish. That's foolish. You have people today that scoff at the law of God. They scoff at the word of God. That's foolish. You got people today say there is no God. So there is no God. You don't have anybody you have to bring your body into subjection to. And there is no standard of morality if there's no higher being, if there's no creator. So it said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. This is the foundation. This is the base, the fear of God. Let it direct you. When, you know, you got love. You love God, but sometimes your love, it's the fear of God, the reverence of God. Understand who you dealing with. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Let's go to 1 Kings. Because this book, things that are written are for our instruction. This is 1 Kings. Let's see something that this king did, this wise king. This is 1 Kings 11, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. 1 Kings 11 and verse 1. Because it's always wise to fear God, to reverence God. But let's see what Solomon did. It said, but King, in verse 1 of 1 Kings 11 and 1 reads, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, you should not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. He tells you why you shouldn't marry these other nations. It said, for surely they will turn away your heart, which is the mind, from following after. It says, surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love, and he has 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Hold your finger there. Let me clear something up real quick. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy 17, and talking about the king. Deuteronomy 17 and verse. Deuteronomy 17 and verse. Give me 1 second. Deuteronomy 17 and verse 17, it says, neither shall he multiply wives to himself. That's talking about like a harem, which he had those 1,000, where it says 700 wives and 300 concubines. Okay? So it says, and the Lord was angry. And what happened? It said, and he commanded him concerning this thing that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and will give it to thy servant. Okay, so that's what happened. That's what happened. Let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel 22. See, there are consequences with that when you turn from God. Ezekiel 22, and we're going to pick it up at verse 25. Ezekiel 22 and verse 25. Because we saw the king area here, let's see the priest. Ezekiel 22 and 25, it said, there is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls and precious. It said they have taken the treasure and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. So the prophets have gone astray, and then it said her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profane among them. Fear God and keep his commandments, right? The beginning of knowledge is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, right? But you forsaken your foundation when you don't do that. And that knowledge is from the law of God. That's how you get it. Let's go to Malachi 2. Back to Malachi 2. Malachi 2 and verse 1. Malachi 2 and verse 1. It says, oh, now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. right? So he's talking to the priest, and he's talking about what he's going to do to him. He said, if you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart to give glory unto my name, said the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you. And I will curse your blessings. Yeah, I have cursed them already because ye do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. Then it says something. It says again in verse 7, for the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law of his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. But ye have departed out of the way, and it says ye have caused many to stumble at the law. That's what they do it even unto this day, these religious leaders. Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in my law. See, brothers and sisters, and because of this, what happens? There are consequences for this, right? So Israel, your wisdom is in keeping the law. It is not in forsaking the law, because when you forsake the law, you're in trouble. This is what the prophet Hosea said concerning Israel. This is Hosea 4 and verse 6. It said, my people are destroyed. Why? For lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. You're supposed to be a priest in a holy nation. But you have rejected that which makes you holy. And in essence, have rejected me. I'm back. Forgive me, brothers and sisters. My computer went out. But it says Hosea 4 and 6. That's where I left off. It said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. See, there are consequences when you forsake God, when you forsake his law. Israel, again, your wisdom is in keeping God's law. Let's go to Isaiah 5. Isaiah the 5th chapter, and see what he said. Because he said, you destroy for lack of what? For lack of knowledge. Where did that knowledge come from? It comes from God. It comes from his law, his statutes, his commandments. This is Isaiah 5 and verse 13. And it says, therefore my people are gone into captivity. See, Moses prophesied of the transatlantic slave trade in Deuteronomy the 28th chapter. He prophesied of that. He said, you're going to go into Egypt, which is the house of bondage, right? You read about Egypt in the Ten Commandments. It said, calls Egypt the house of bondage, meaning he said, you're going into the house of bondage, by way of ships. Now you shall be sold unto your enemy to bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Meaning no man is going to redeem you out of this situation. You think, well, slavery is over. Listen, if you have been sold into slavery and you never went home and you never regained what was lost, you still enslaved. So it says in verse 13, it says, therefore my people are gone into captivity because they have what? No knowledge. They have no knowledge. And that's how we are even until this day. We lack total knowledge of even self, identity. And because we reject God as a people and have rejected God as a people, and that's not always going to be. But because we have done that, that's our knowledge. So we don't know anything. And now because we don't have knowledge of God, he said you're going into captivity. See, that's why we are in the condition we are in as a people. We thinking that going out to protest some white supremacists is you're going to appeal to the conscience of some people is going to help you. That's not going to help you. You think tearing down a monument to some Confederate soldiers is going to help you. That's not going to help. That's the answer. That's not the answer. You think that is sitting on a city council and voting something in or out is going to help you. I'm here to tell you, that's not going to help you as a people. You think we need some black banks. I'm here to tell you, that's not going to help you as a people. You think we must have better schools. I'm here to tell you, that's not going to help you as a people. Some of y'all are locked and loaded. You in the woods training. That's not going to help you as a people. What's going to help you as a people is turning back to the God who allowed this situation to come upon you in the first place. And if you don't, you can expect more the same. See, I'm going to tell you right now, pain is on the horizon for our people. Pain is on the horizon for our people. It's just what it is. These false hypocrite preachers not going to tell you that. I read an article today, some were even trying to defend the president's words. Boy, I tell you, cooning is at an all-time high. Selling out is at an all-time high, too. Then you got some others on the other side. They want to organize marches as if that's the answer. You can wear out your shoes marching. That is not the answer. That is not the answer. Turn back to the knowledge of God. That's the answer. Therefore, my people are going into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. See, the honorable men, see, the one that's supposed to be teaching you is not teaching you. And then you got people who want to come on this page, not the majority, but too many want to come on this page and actually talk crazy. Understand what you are doing. Because I'm reading the Bible to you. It's not my opinion. So you're not speaking against me. It said, therefore, hell hath enlarged yourself. You're going to catch hell. That's what we've been catching hell. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure. And their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend into it. You're going to catch hell. Why? Because you turn from God. You turn from the knowledge of God. Therefore, my people are going into captivity. You went in the hulls of ships with chained naked, defecating on yourself, regurgitating on yourself. Women having that minstrel in that pit of a hell under that ship. The hull of the ship, the smell of hell coming up out of the ship. Take you over the top of the ship. They would rape the women and some of the men. Throw those who had died or sick overboard. Then bring you those who survived to a new land, stripped you of everything, and had you work and work and work. You going into captivity at the mercy of other people. Are you still trying to march, trying to appeal, carrying a sign? Throw that sign away. Come out of these Christian churches Turn back to the Most High God. That's what you need to do. This is the last place. Because Israel don't have a clue at this point. That's going to change. Isaiah 1 and verse 2. It says, "Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me." Just like you would teach a child. He taught us his law. He manifested himself unto you. Say, "You're my child. You're my people. I'm your God." It said, "I have nourished and brought up children." He brought you up out of captivity, brought you into a promised land. You inherited the labor of other people. He manifested himself unto you through his law and his deliverance. He said, "I'm God," and went into a covenant with you, and you rebelled against God. He said, "Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me." He says something here. He says, "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know." They don't know. They have no knowledge. It says they don't know. "My people doth not consider." Don't consider. Without knowledge, it says, "All sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward." They are gone away backward. And that's what we are as a people. We were here in the days of Isaiah, and that's what we are as a people right now. But Israel, your wisdom is in keeping God's law. I want to thank you for your time.